Welcome into Coffee and Chel for Monday, February 23rd. Congrats to Team USA and all of my American viewers. I feel like there's no way that we can do this episode and not do a pretty large portion of it on the Olympics. So, can I even say Olympics? Yeah, we're gonna whatever on the Olympics, and that's where we're gonna start. So, first off, devastating. I think that was the greatest game of hockey that I've ever seen, personally, and I don't know what will top that outside of a rematch. Outside of a rematch, like I think that the one thing about Olympic hockey that is different than the Stanley Cup, because I think that if you were to ask your typical hockey fan, what would you rather have? Everyone is going to say your favorite team winning a Stanley Cup, because the odds of that are 1 in 32, right? Like if we just take all things equal, you have a 1 in 32 chance of that actually happening. And then obviously it changes based on the superstars you have and all of that. And then, but in the Olympics, if you're a USA and Canada fan, you're 1 and 2, and they're interchangeable really. So, however, that being said, there is no, I'm trying to get my argument for this correct, or what I'm trying to say here correct. Because in a Stanley Cup is only 2 teams or 1 team that wins, right? That fan base is the only one that gets to react. Whereas in the Olympics, Canada, USA specifically, I apologize to my European fans, but Canada, USA, that's country and country. And that is unmatched in that sense. Like, I haven't felt that nervous, that invested since 2019 when the Sharks were good. And that was probably their best chance at winning a cup, even more than their 2016 cup run when they made it to the finals. I haven't felt anything like that before, and it was a blast. Start to finish, like even all of the buildup, 4 nations. And a lot of people I saw on social media, we're going to get into the social media side of it because I'm not super, I want to talk to my Canadian brethren, but I saw some things on Twitter about like it's hockey, leave politics out of it. I completely disagree. I don't think that you should have politics in the game, but politics 100% magnified that game. USA or Americans and Canadians are no longer friends in the grand scheme of things. I love America and Americans, but you get what I'm saying here. There is a tension between both nations, and you have a sport that is Canada's best because we really can't compete toe-to-toe. I mean, I guess with the Blue Jays, but that was a devastating L as well. But that being said, hockey is the bread and butter. And for so long, the Americans haven't been up to par with Canada. And so we've owned that. And now it's like, we don't even have that. So the devastation is more than just hockey, the hockey game, right? And it leads to the country shutting down. And I don't know of a time when Americans as well took so much of an investment in it. And I think that's great for hockey. I think that from the American standpoint, the interest across the board from Americans was insane and awesome. And it just made every moment of that game incredible. I think that the drama that it had, the too many men non-calls, okay, the non-call, but like the 5-on-3, Canada didn't score. The Hellebuck finally having his moment. All right, you had this goaltender who is the greatest goaltender in the NHL, by the way, and everyone just assumed that he would choke because that is what had happened before. He had never been able to win the big ones. You just assumed that he wasn't going to win the big one, and then he does, right? You have Binnington, who is just questioned nonstop, even though when I saw LOL Thompson should be playing in the I don't know what more this dude has to do in a game that matters, right? I don't know what he has to do. There are people that only care when there is stuff on the line, and Binnington is one of them. Right? Like, that is it. The whole reason that Canada's even in the gold medal game is because of him. Sedlak had a wide open chance in overtime for Czechia, and Binnington made the save that he could not make against with Jack Hughes. The 3-on-3 overtime. God, that a lot of people, like, that's a tragic way to end one of the most perfect hockey games that will ever be played, no doubt. I also understand the issues that unlimited overtime would arise. I think a lot of people don't realize that the men's Olympic final is, I would have to assume, the most watched event of any sport in the Olympics. It is almost always the last event of the Olympics, and they have a $1 billion ceremony that is about to go off. And if you have, God forbid, 7 overtimes, when you consider that it took 60 minutes to score 2 goals, right? Like, it's an unfortunate part of the game where there will be times because of TV and everything else where it needs to end in a certain time. And it's one of the only sports where it could go on forever, like literally, much like what happened with baseball. But baseball's overtime rule or extra inning rules are a little bit more of an advantage and lead to quick games than 3-on-3. Oh, no, 3-on-3 is still, but it at least is somewhat of the sport, right? Having a guy start on second base is a much more common thing than 3-on-3, because that could literally happen, but it's like once every season where there's actually 3-on-3 because of offsetting minors. So an unfortunate way. Okay, now I got to speak to my Canadian fellows out there, because obviously frustration, and I don't know if it's because I'm older or I just care less about social media in general, which is odd given the career choice that I've chosen. The amount of cope. Fellas, if you took to Twitter to complain and try to discredit the U.S. for winning that game, you're not a loser. That's loser mentality. Let me explain why. The 7 men off of the bench non-call, is that a penalty? 1,000%. That was the referees terrified of being injected into that game. That is all that was. There was no other way around it. There's no subjection. It is clear as day, just like throwing the puck over the glass, right? There's no way to not call that, right? Like, that is, all the other calls could be, anyways, that was a penalty. It wasn't called. Terrified to call? Okay. A penalty not called does not guarantee a goal. The greatest power play potentially ever assembled by Team Canada, I guess you would say that Crosby not being there is a big part of it. Celebrini, who is, try not to be biased here, the next one, as it seems. I think that this was eye-opening for anyone that has not watched San Jose Shark hockey, which is a lot of people. He was the replacement. He is also leading the league or the tournament in goals. So that was the replacement. They couldn't score a 5-on-3. So them getting a power play, does that guarantee that they win? No. It gives them an extra chance. The drama as well. Again, back to just the game in general. The 4-minute double minor. And then Jack Hughes taking the penalty to nullify that. Like, just cinema. I can't, like I said, I don't think that there's ever a way to replicate a game better than that. Anyways, back to what happened on what I saw on Twitter mostly. And it's just, if you can't acknowledge that you would have been, I would have lost followers and subscribers. If Canada would have won that game, I was trying to tell my chat this on Twitch, every game or every stream would have been Shania Twain for the next 2 weeks. I would have been unbearable because I had so much invested, much like all of you guys did and everyone else. So to say that Americans are being over the top, are you insane? What do you expect? If you can sit there and say you wouldn't have been absolutely, like, unreal in terms of, like, unbearable, I think that you're lying to yourself. And that's the great part about sports. That's the great part about it, right? They won, they get to do it. And you got to sit there and take it on the chin. And it's not everyone, but it's just what I saw on social media. It's tough. Everyone going for excuses. Canada dominated that game for 40 minutes and they couldn't bury. Right? If they play that game out 100 more times, Canada probably wins 80% of them if it goes like it did. Right? But that's the great thing about hockey. It is what makes it the best sport in the world. Because you don't have to be the best team. You just have to be the best in the opportunities that you get. And that's what the USA was. That was it. They got their lunch fed to them for 2.5 periods. And it did not matter. Because Canada could not bury. We did not have the clutch. Nathan McKinnon missing that wide open net, probably because he's completely exhausted. That dude is so hurt, probably concussed from the France game, and if it wasn't the gold medal game, like, I would be stunned if he was even playing, because that dude played 30 minutes a night, and was just the Taves, the save on Taves, correct. That is what makes hockey the greatest sport in the world. Because no other sport has that level of dominance and not leading to a win. Like, it is just those micro moments, the double bar from Faber. Like, just obnoxious stuff. And it led me to a side note here. Everything that we complain about from a gameplay standpoint, outside of ping, okay? Everything that we complain about, ice tilt, the random posts, stick breaks, that is what made that game so amazing. Yet in the video game, it is the worst aspect of it. And I just find it so funny because I'm in complete agreement. It is the worst aspect of it, but when it comes to watching the real thing, that is what makes it insane. And which is a big reason as to why I don't think we'll ever get universally loved gameplay in NHL. I think it's impossible. The sport is too luck-based. It is too luck-based. Canada, the only reason they were in the gold medal game, that Reinhart tip from Makar, he didn't even know he was going to tip it. He was literally falling down, right? Like, it's just, that's the stuff that makes hockey the best, right? Those moments are just insane. Also, credit to Dylan Larkin. I don't know how he's able to walk. Real talk. Wilson got him with one of the craziest hits I've ever seen that was legal. And it's not the hit. It was what happened to his neck into the boards. Like, it was two teams hated each other. Absolutely hated each other. And it made it cinema. And I don't know how I'm going to go to watching that. I mean, I guess I have it a little bit better because I get Macklin celebrating. Sharks against Calgary. No offense, Calgary fans. I don't know how I'm going to go to watch that now. Because I was just watching, Mitch Marner get rid of all of his Toronto Maple Leaf demons on the third line, and now I got to go back to Ty Dellandrea. Like, I actually think there's going to be some fatigue of hockey because there's no way that any NHL game is going to come anywhere close to what we just watched. But to all my Canadian fans out there, we've had so many we had our golden goal, and the Americans had theirs. Ours was better. We got the ultimate at home in Vancouver. It is a moment that will be forever remembered, much like the USA happened. The only way that could have topped that is if that happened at Salt Lake, which could happen in 2034. But to all my Canadian fans out there, the reason why you shouldn't be upset is because, well, you should be upset. The reason why you should be optimistic is because we get to watch this again. And next Olympics, if these two teams meet, which they probably will, and imagine it's the gold medal game, imagine Canada wins. And we get to see in 2034 the best of three. Like, this has become bigger than the sport. It is unbelievable. And I'm so excited because this was the last year of any sort of mediocrity on Team Canada. I've talked about this quite a bit on stream. One of the things I think that was detrimental to this Team Canada team, or just Canadian hockey in general, is that the gap that Canadians had shrunk so much from 2020 to 2023. All of those years where we should have had new stars take over for McDavid and McKinnon or supplement them, we didn't get any of them. Lafreniere, bust. Byfield, better than he was, and he's developed into a pretty good player. Not what we need. Not a top-end Team Canada type player. Owen Power, same thing. All of those extremely high-end guys, we basically had 3 years of none of it. And that was what was detrimental to this team. When you look at the gap that it had, the first line had Connor McDavid and a 19-year-old, who was amazing, by the way. But that is what it is. The defense and the goaltending, obviously, was the biggest point of contention for Team Canada. And I think that I saw people argue about Bouchard. I mean, the Canadians let in like 5 goals, right? So I don't think defense was the big problem. They couldn't break the puck out to save their life. And I don't know if Bouchard makes that any better. Does he make them better on the power play? The Canadians scored 50% of their power plays. Some of the most insane stuff you've ever seen. So I really don't really care about the Bouchard one. But let me give you some optimism. Schaefer is 100% on the team. And he will be parked right next to Cale Makar. And then you have Keaton Verhoff and Landon DuPont potentially. And it could be the next generation of, like, optimism. Right? So it's not all doom and gloom. I can't wait for 2030. It makes it insane. But for anyone that is just like trying to take away from what the USA did, they stopped a 5-on-3 against McKinnon, Macklin, McCarr, McDavid. That is one of the most unheard of things that you could do in the sport, and they did it. They deserve all of the recognition. They did it. There's no asterisk or any of that. They beat Team Canada in a best-of-1 game, and they get to have the gold medal and hockey superiority for the next 4 years, and it makes the next one 10 even better. Even better. For anyone out there that didn't think that was a guaranteed goal, you're lying to yourself, right? So I get if you're upset. I was upset. I was devastated. It was the first time I've been devastated by the outcome of a hockey game. Like I said, the Sharks haven't been good in a long time. But that was, God, it made me feel something again, which was great. So, one last thing. I always bring this back to the Leafs because I'm just force-fed the Leafs, and I do enjoy the Leafs. Like, the Leafs are my, I guess, second favorite team. I wouldn't call them my second favorite team. I think that they're the team I pay attention to the most, right? I do want to see them do well for my dad, and I grew up a Leafs fan before I was old enough to make my own decision. For the last 2.5 decades, I've loved my Sharks, and I would never want to see them win over the Sharks. That being said, the comment after, out of nowhere, unprovoked, where the Hughes brothers are with Matthews, and essentially I believe it was Jack, saying, this guy's a captain, he let us, all of that, all the Toronto media is crazy. Like, I'm paraphrasing. But them bringing that up, unannounced, and same with McCarr, same with Mark Stone, when Marner won in overtime, and someone asked Mark Stone, is there do you think this stops the questions of Mitch Marner and his ability to perform in big moments? And his answer being, that's a Toronto thing. No one else thinks that, right? Like, I just feel like that stuff means that when they're having a beer or dinner, Matthews is talking about it, or it's discussed with him there. That's the only way that stuff comes up. That's the only way that stuff comes up, is if that's discussed. And I just found that very interesting, because they're right. Like, Marner outside of Toronto, nails. Done it multiple times now. Crazy. Matthews was an absolute ghost in the gold medal game. He did have 2 unbelievable defensive plays in the first period that might have changed the game, but absolute ghost. It exactly. Like, I just feel like it shows that the fan base is so insane. And I don't blame you, by the way. I think that the Toronto fan base is what drives a lot in the NHL. Like, it just shows how hard it is there if you're not a dog. And, I thought that Matthews was completely invisible in that game. So, and the pass that he made, like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's crazy. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer. Okay, let's talk about wild card. So, wild card has been bugged, or it was bugged. I want to bring up this comment. Someone in my chat said, open wild card bugged, and you could pick anyone. It was the worst experience that I've had, because you got wild card with no parameters, no restrictions. And it got me thinking, 100% in agreement. I think that in the wild card were to stay the same in the way that it currently is, if they made it open and you could bring anyone you want as a wild card player, awful experience. I think that then it would make it way worse, because what was happening was essentially over the weekend, there was a wild card where you could bring anyone, right? I think it was the Islanders one, or maybe the Penguins one, and it was absolutely brutal in that sense. Because you'd go in and it's just the top end cards, and because they're always on the ice with the best abilities, just wasn't fun at all. Terrible. So I think that if they keep it the same, it's got to be like what it is now. I actually think that it being called wild card kind of stinks, because it'd be better if you couldn't bring someone. Although I do like the fact that you can no, I disagree. As I'm talking this out, I actually like the fact that you could bring cards in your collection from it. I actually think that's kind of an advantage to the people that grind the game. I do. I think that's a little bit of an advantage. I'll be very curious to see what happens with wildcard, though. Very, very curious to see what happens to the wild card because when it runs out, I'm curious if enough people played it for them. Like I told you guys, if there's enough engagement, they might keep it like that. Or it might be something where it comes back every month. That'd be my guess. But crazy. Final week of Superstar Origins. I have said that this year's hut is the best hut that we've had in a long time. From team building, all of it. There's a lot of bad. Like, there's always going to be bad. Like the limited edition cards. I think that the char thing, absolutely absurd. All that, the salary cap, a lot of bad. But I have never been this invested in hut this long into the year. And what's crazy is that the sentiment that I see is roughly the same. There's people that say I'm out or whatever, but if you look at the player base, it's never been as high as it is right now at this time of the year. We're 6 months into the game cycle, and I don't know if you guys saw this. If you follow Thrash on Twitter, he posted some numbers that you could find via leaderboards. There was 60,000 people that had played ranked in Season 3. That doesn't include silver and bronze. That is an absurd number to me. Absolutely absurd number. There's 20,000 cards on the market at times. Like, it has never been more alive than it is right now. But there is still problems. Don't get it twisted. And one of the harshest critiques I've had is over the last 2 weeks, they have really mailed in the content. And I don't mean from like a player selection standpoint. I mean the upgrading of cards. So I talked about this a while ago, or in the last episode of Coffee and Chel, but also in my content review videos. I was giving you guys examples of how they upgrade cards. Is they take the base card and then it's like plus 12, right? If it's 93 overalls and your card was an 81, then you got plus 12 to everything. No custom, no moving around attributes. And they did that with every event card, including MSPs. So all skating was brutal. All of it was bad. And the Master Set players, good choices. Matthews and Draisaitl with 88 speed with very little line combos. It's just, that's an awful, like, you know what I mean? Like, all attributes are not created equal. There are attributes that don't matter. And there's attributes that are very important, like skating is one. And that was just a major concern because that isn't best for business. I always talk about how I'm not surprised now when they do stuff that's best for business, right? And it makes sense to me. I understand. I don't love it from a consumer standpoint or a player standpoint. It sucks, but I understand it at least. This is something where I don't want to say it cost them money, but it cost them engagement, and all they had to do was something that did not cost them any money. Just make the cards a little better. Move around the attributes. It was literally just plus 12, bang, send it. And that's the first time I've seen that this year. And I hope that isn't the case moving forward. Because if it is, content becomes extremely dull. Extremely dull. And we're so late in the year, the fall off can happen like that. Again, I've said this a number of times. A sports game is not a yearly cycle. It is a 6-month cycle. Right around the playoffs of that sport, interest craters. And what you're left with is the hardcore players, the players that watch YouTube videos and are on Twitch. Very, very, very big, harsh drop-off. And it will happen at an exponential rate if the content is boring. And a 3-week event has always been a struggle in NHL. Every time they've done one, it's usually been hated because either it gets leaked or we're just like over it. But with line combos, you have a chance to always make something a little bit more exciting. And when they made the cards just so boring, it was like, man, what are we doing here? So I don't know. That's a concern. And that's a real criticism. Like I said, I think HUD is the best it's been in a long time. If you go year over year and look at all the problems and things that happened in prior years, there's a lot to fix, but I do think it is the best still in terms of engagement, just numbers, and the fact that we're still interested, I think is crazy, given usually how it goes. And this was a really bad 2 weeks of content. So that's going to do it for that section. Let's go into our questions and comments. These are the most liked and kind of the ones that we highlighted from this episode. So we'll start with Infamous. He says, "Good morning, good sir. I don't expect this to get commented on, but I've spent the last 48 hours thinking about this. As a content creator and prominent streamer, I respect your work and the transparency you provide in the HUD experience. You do a great job with this, and I can't imagine the difficulty in streaming my reactions to live gameplay to the world. You typically do a great job of calling yourself out and limit the criticisms of your opponent. I had a different experience with another prominent streamer. He spent the entirety of the game questioning his goalie, his opponent, and the meta of the game. All this while constantly running the meta of the LT to the goalie and forcing cross-ice passes to 3 ridiculous goals. Never once was he critical of his own gameplay, completely turned me off of his channel. Content creators out there, please keep in mind you might actually be matching up against people who frequent your channels, or in this case, once did. Appreciate you more than most. All right, so I want to discuss this because something that when it comes to content creators, one of the most frustrating things is that when I'm playing and I show some frustration, people will act like it's absurd that I'm upset with the game. Like, I'll be like, what a garbage goal. Something along those lines. Or like, this guy is getting tuned. It's like very, very common things, right? And the thing that I want to reiterate to people, that content creators are people too. The fact that you think we're robots and can't have emotions about a game is absurd to me. As I've gotten a little bit older, I think I've just tried to become more self-aware, and I won't allow myself to have like the crazy freakouts. I do have some crash outs. Don't get it twisted. I have some crash outs. But I think that when it comes to a video game, especially a sports game that's one-on-one, all right, when it's one-on-one, you go to work all day, you go to school all day, you hang out with your wife on a Sunday, it's the fall, you go to the pumpkin patch, you just want to play some NHL and forget about your day, all right? And you get on and the way that you enjoy the game is online, okay? So you've taken out the AI. There's still AI in the game, but you get what I'm saying. You've eliminated the AI. So now you've got player versus player, okay? If you lose, the last thing that you want to do after a long day is blame yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, the last thing you want to do is blame yourself. And this goes for like anything in life. But like, let's be honest here. You're playing a video game. You don't want to blame yourself. So this is kind of the checklist. First thing is you blame the game. I was right there. Why didn't my guy intercept it? My goalie's garbage. All of that. Then it continues. Your guy does a mechanic that you're not able to do, or that you don't use because you aren't as good at the game. Opponent does the LT. Bam. He's cheesing the game. He's glitching the game. This is garbage. If he didn't do that, I'd win. Maybe. But, like, and then the last one they get to is just like, he spends money in the game or he has no job. That's the checklist. Blame the game, blame the player, blame the time or input or the money. And the last thing, which doesn't even get to, some players it does, is yourself. When in reality, if you were better at the game, none of this stuff would be a problem. Now, the best players in the world, because it is a hockey video game, I just talked about this, the Olympics, the Olympic game that we just watched is the perfect microcosm of the NHL video game. How many times do you see a game where you have 5 times the time on attack and shots on goal and you lose? How insanely frustrating is that? How many Reddit posts have been made about that? That's hockey. The problem is that we don't want that in a video game because that's X's and O's, baby, right? If you watch me a lot, not just one-off games, right? I've had a few arguments with people that have made Reddit posts and Facebook threads this year about how I spoke to them, which for the most part, guys, if you're complaining about a content creator, this I wouldn't take as a compliment. I would say this is criticism, right? Because you've just been like, I didn't enjoy that. Maybe it's not for me anymore. You're making Reddit posts about like a person freaking out and whatnot. It's like, dude, you would do the same thing. There has been times where you're not on camera and you lose your mind. I know you do. How many times have you busted a controller, right? I think it's insane. But I think that I just acknowledge I've played the game enough. I used to be the voice of the GWC. I've seen the game played at the highest end, the absolute highest end. And I know that I'm not that. And I know that when a player does a really nice goal, yeah, it's a nice goal, man. Right? On to the next, dude. We're not playing for money. It's on to the next. And sometimes you probably just caught this creator, man, having a bad day. But if you watch it more, that creator more, I want you to give whoever this is, I want you to give him another chance. All right? I want you to give him another chance because I know myself that I have times where I lose my mind. And maybe that's more tame. Maybe it's because I'm old or older, right? And I have a lot more self-awareness than some gamers that aren't used to losing. So give him another chance. And then if it keeps happening and you don't enjoy it anymore, yeah, then maybe it's time to find someone else, man. But I just wanted to highlight this because I feel like a lot of people that watch content creators, they expect us to be robots, man. I had a guy complain on, I don't even know if I want to highlight this. No, I had a guy complain on Facebook because he beat me on a face-off play, and I had literally won 90% of the face-offs in that game. And I said something along the lines of, you got worked all game, and you got absolutely dog-walked on the face-off, and that's why I'm upset. And then he made a poor me post. And I'm just like, bro, that was you would not survive Halo 3 or Modern Warfare. That is it. You are not meant for the internet. If you can't handle someone yelling at you or giving you the gears, right, in a video game, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you would not have been able to make it back in 2010. So understand that. It's time to toughen up a little bit. All right, when a content creator wants to give it back to them, man, go in their chat, call them trash, get them angry, man. I love when people come into my chat because I find myself pretty quick-witted, so I enjoy the back and forth. You know, if you got a guy who's talking smack against you and you make a Facebook or a Reddit post instead of going into that chat and giving him the business or her, that's on you, man. Toughen up. Toughen up. Don't go make poor me posts. You go into that chat. You go into that chat and you let him know that he got smoked, all right? That's what I want you to do. But we're not robots. Well, Bert might be. Dip says, hey, Sleeves, so off topic, and I know you probably have touched on this before, but can we please talk about these moments, man? I know skill issue, but man, I am a regular player since 94. Every year, I normally finish Div 2, have made Div 1 a few times. I'm Plat 3 now, around 12 to 15 wins and champs. Bro, I'm probably high diamond elite, and I get like 12 to 15 wins. So, but these pro moments, almost not worth the time investment for the cards. Who is this stuff meant for? What casual is able to do these moments? I mean, I was able to do the Panarin moment from last year, and getting 2 goals with Slav is mission impossible. I mean, I just don't get it. Rant over. I know I can't be the only one with this, but I just want to do the moments, maybe have to retry once or twice, and move on and not slam my head on one moment for however long it takes for an 86 overall card I'm going to use to build an MSP. A couple episodes ago, I went over this. There was a moment set that I was doing where I had a crash out. You want to see my ultimate crash outs? It's moments in offline game. I can't handle it because I hate it so much that I just want out of it that I will lose my mind. I am like just not normal when it comes to offline play. I went into the Game Changer chat and I'll summarize what I put in there. There is something broken in moments. And the fact that it is not acknowledged is obnoxious. Moments should be the entry to an event. Okay. And then season-long moments, all of that. But moments are the entry point to an event. The first thing that you should do when a new event drops is do your moments to get some cards so that they can go into your lineup and then help do the objectives. If they cannot go in and figure out the problem, which I think is the actual issue, they can't figure out how to fix it. There is a slider issue in the background where the difficulty or the sliders for those moments on that difficulty, and honestly, it's on Pro, All-Star, and Superstar, but Pro seems to be the biggest point of contention. If they cannot fix that, then they need to adjust the rewards because it should be that you were rewarded for doing something very quickly. So I said, if you can't fix this, if you can't fix the difficulty of the rewards because it is not how it's supposed to be, then you need to make the end reward worth the time input. So you get the base card for a trade-in for that event. So it'd be like you get an 88, I believe, or an 87. I don't remember the overall. You should get an 89 or 90. If they did that, then I think we could at least swallow doing the pro difficulties because that's a pretty valuable card to make an MSP if you got a free one of those. But the fact that they're not doing that, again, this is one of those things where it's like, that's not best for business, and this is an easy fix. It's an easy fix in terms of how to address it now. It might not be a technically easy fix because that requires dev time. If you don't want to invest that in NHL 26, fine. Fix the reward for it. That's it. Fix the reward for it. Don't make the players' experience worse because you can't fix the problem. Do you someone in my chat just said, do you truly think they didn't set the moments difficulty slider that way on purpose? I find that almost impossible to believe. No. I think I can say this. NHL 23, when moments first came out, that was when this was actually first discovered. And I remember having a conversation with a developer that's no longer there, where they found something. Because the problem was we brought it up, and they couldn't figure out or replicate it. And this is NHL 23, by the way. And after about a couple weeks, one of the main gameplay devs was like, we figured it out what was going on. It was a slider issue in the background. And it was fixed, it seemed. And then in 25 and 26, it like seems like that issue is back, but it's not in the same manner they haven't said anything. So I don't know. I really don't know. I can only go off of prior experience. So this is not an on purpose thing. It is the complete or the perfect example of why this game struggles to innovate more than other sports games. I truthfully believe in 2015, when they went to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, the foundation and code of which the entire game is built on was a disaster. I think that was when they moved to a new engine. Well, it's not Frostbite, but the one before. I don't remember what it was called. And I use the term spaghetti code all the time because that's what they use as the term for it. And it's basically like every year they just toss more code on. Okay? Ignite was the engine. Correct, Ignite. And they just toss more code on. And the problem that they've always run into with these things, the storage sets, for example, is they fix one thing, 2 holes leak. And now the developer has to then go and fix those 2 things. And if those 2 things open up another thing, they've wasted a week of dev time. And I don't mean wasted in the sense that like it's not worth it to fix that. It's that year-long or yearly game releases have 12 weeks of actual coding for the next game. This is not just NHL, by the way. So if they take a developer off to go and fix that issue, it might be more. It has to be deemed exceptionally important because then that dev can't work on the next game, right? And if they don't work on that next game, maybe there's a feature that doesn't get added in 27 or 28 and so on, right? So it was not done on purpose. I just think that it's at a situation right now where maybe they'll fix it in for 27, or maybe they'll figure out something that'll work on it. But it is an issue. So when it comes to moments, the main thing is the perfect example here. This guy gets 12 to 15 wins and champs. There is no normal consumer or player that can do a lot of these moments. It's impossible. And because the rewards do not scale based on the difficulty, it's not worth it at all. So here's what I would say. I think that a lot of us are completionists. I know I am. So I want stuff done just because I get all the stars. Try it. And if a moment list is taking you more than 20 minutes, move on. Move on. Your time's not worth it. Move on. Are we going to get reimbursed for the Islanders wildcard? EA didn't allow me to play or in collectibles. So if you go to the store now, guys, there is a pack in the store that will give you an emerald, sapphire, and ruby gem. Go into the store and grab that because, yeah, wildcard didn't work over the weekend, unfortunately. So Eggplant says, I'm loving how these videos have become a sounding board for us old guys trying to balance 40-hour work week jobs with trying to stay competitive in HUT. As a 41-year-old, I feel like there are enough bargain basement line combo options to stay competitive if you can't pay for or even have time to grind for the meta combos. I agree. For example, the 86 Heroes Gartner with Elite Wheels activated is still viable at this stage of the game. He is. If you use him instead of Zetterberg paired with Sundin and Pasta, it's still a really good line, even if you're only activating some of the line combos instead of all of them. While getting Sundin can still be a grind, they give us enough rookies in the XP path to make it bearable. They've done a good job at this. Yeah, I think too much or too often we Google or we watch creators and we're like, what's the best line combo? And if we can't afford that, we immediately go, there's no point. I know I do that. I've literally felt like that. And too often do we want to go and get cards or make a line combo that is not the top tier. And I think that's just a mindset. There are other cards that will like work that will allow you to, and it's just get out of your mind. Guys, I did a HUT Champs run with my team where I made everyone. Remember how I told you about the HUT cycle? Where I don't upgrade my team for 6 weeks, and then it's really feels like it falls behind, and then I spend all my resource and really upgrade my team. Literally get the exact same HUT Champs run. Unless you are spending money to get the exceptional limited cards that bust progression. I'm not even talking where you get multiple MSPs. I'm talking like you are getting the limited cards. Those are the only needle movers. Guys, the Lindros, the Gartner, the Sakic, the Chara, those are the only ones that will move the needle, that will actually give you an advantage over other people. that you can do with your team. Other than that, man, you're really just going to stay very close. It is very close. Someone in my chat just said, I've never done any of the start of the season moments, the one for the moment collectibles, because they are so ridiculously hard for absolutely nothing in return other than the 81 alumni or something. The moments that you like, those season long ones, one of the things that I recommend doing early on in the game, if you get it at launch of the game, is doing all of the moments, getting that stuff out of the way, because it'll never have more value than right then and there. And then it loses tremendous value. It's just there for being there. It's not going to help you. But that's why those ones that you're talking about in chat, I try and get those out of the way exactly, like right when the game launches. Try this experiment. Go to create a player and plug in Matthew's attributes, and it's barely a 93 overall. My -2 stick checking, and he's a 92. Do the same with MSP McKinnon, and he's a 95 overall. So that is because skating, I believe, does not get included in the attribute pool. So because if you were to include McKinnon, so I don't know if your creative player thing, that doesn't work the same. So in HUTs, skating does not, and face-off rating does not get included in the 99. In the makeup overall of the card, it does not get included. I believe. I'm almost positive. So the reason why you're seeing this, but this doesn't mean that this argument or this like doesn't explain what's happening. So if you were to go to a creative player and you create one with the same overalls, that just goes to show how much more impactful someone who's fast is, right? Because of that. And if EA, you can't just make every card the same skating. Matthew should not be the same skating as McKinnon. You have a system that you built this year to alleviate that. You have 2 master set players from the same team. Make a line combo that gives a +3 overall that could allow Matthews didn't even get any line combos. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what he didn't even get any line, like outside of the attribute thing. He didn't even get line combos. That's absurd. That is the definition of mailing it into me. And I haven't seen any of that from the content team. I was so critical of them last year, as we all were, because I think that they were just figuring it out and they had no idea. And this year, they at least have done a lot to be like, this is pretty good for the most part, you know, in terms of their choices and whatnot. I think it's gone way. By the way, something else that I've noticed, the repeat master set player items, that's becoming a real thing. So one of the things that is very frustrating is that the limited edition cards, guys, right? Those are literally just the most made cards. That's it. So if you look at all the limiteds, even the team of the year, so Chara and Sakic are the most made icon and hero card from launch of the game, right? All they're doing is looking at who's the most made players and then re-releasing them. And why? Because they'll probably be purchased. Is that boring? Yep. But we are going to get a lot of the same players because of that. And again, if you were a business, you would sell the things that sell the most. And it sucks for that part sucks for the creativity of the consumer, for sure, of the player. But that's what's happening. Like, guys, the next limited edition player is Wayne Gretzky. I would bet a large sum of money on that. It's Wayne Gretzky, because that's the next 89 icon. That was the most 89 icon. It's another Gartner. Yeah, that's what's happening. And when it's the same thing happening with MSPs. So I actually don't hate this, because I think in the prior content team, I knew all the parameters. Okay, the old content team that I had a pretty good relationship with, they were almost too even Steven. So let me give you an example of something that Nicholas used to do. I talk about Shadow or Nicholas. Unbelievable for the game because he cared almost too much. I think he cared too much as a detriment. He took things really hard when he released stuff that wasn't universally loved. And I think that was a bit of an issue as well. But he really cared about the player base and protecting the player base from cards that were too overpowered or doing repeat stuff. So one of the things that they used to do was, has this player had an MSP before? Yes, can't get a second one. or it was a super rare. Next, did this team get an MSP? Yes? Okay, not until the other ones are. Has this position gotten MSPs this event? Right? So there were so many parameters that there would be events that were so boring because Eric Brandstrom would get a master set player item because he's the only one that fit this perfect little selection of cards that hadn't gotten a card before. Whereas now, at least we're getting the stars. And even if they're not stars, it's the most made players. Is that the best way to do it? No. If in a perfect world, instead of 10 MSPs an event, we would get 20. And that would be sick, right? Like, I think just more. So that's becoming frustrating, and it's something that I've definitely noticed. So Ben says we have 3 days of content. How is it a lack of planning with the abilities? And also, no one is making MSPs with tape to tape abilities. Do you remember right why we have 3 days of content and not 5 days? Yeah, we have 5 days of content because the content team essentially would come in and spend 6 hours a day on cards that no one liked, and it was just cards for the sake of having cards. Again, this was implemented by the old content team. They weren't able to work in an 8-hour or however many day on future content because they were literally having to come up with cards every single. I used to know the workflow because it was something I asked when I was, hey, would you be interested in joining the content team back in like NHL 21? I asked about this, like what the workflow is. And it was basically like the first 4 hours of the day is making the content for Monday, right? And it used to be they would go through all the European leagues and all the NHL and the AHL and all of that. And then what would happen is 1 out of the 50 cards released were usable. And if you don't remember, go back and watch one of my content videos from NHL 21. Would I like 5 days of content? Selfishly, yeah, more views. Like that's the only reason. I would also like I would like content on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It could be on Fridays only, as long as the content is amazing. If it's less days, then the quality needs to be way raised up. That's the difference, right? It needs to be way raised up. I don't care how many days of content there is, as long as when it comes out, it meets the same. It meets the demand of that, right? So I think that what we're getting now is the 5-day-a-week content, but they're only working 3 days. It's not quality and it's not quantity. We're literally getting the worst of both scenarios these last 2 weeks. These last 2 weeks only. Like, I want to be clear here. It's been really good from that aspect. But these last 2 weeks have literally been the worst part of quality and quantity, in my opinion. And I want to, this will be the last time I bring this up because it's been talked to death. They had to do an extreme pivot for the Olympics because they were obviously told too late that they couldn't do it. And it wiped out their Chel week. For everyone that's like, what, are they just not doing Chel weeks now? They had a Chel week planned, I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely positive of it. When we saw those Olympic cards get released on Reddit, when the stuff got released, that means that they had to commission and pay for the Olympic cards to go into the game. So they planned that there was going to be Olympic content. I did a stream for McDonald's. Guys, if you watch that stream, I wasn't allowed to say Olympics. I wasn't allowed to say Hockey Canada. I wasn't allowed to say Team Canada. I had to use the men's ice hockey tournament for the Winter Games. That's just a streamer that I think I had 1,000 viewers because I was front page doing a watch party. Like, that's how crazy it is, right? Because these are billion-dollar companies, and if the IOC wants to make any money, they can go do it. There's arguments and legality to be made. So it sucks. It sucks. Like, this is the one, like, I guess EA could have fought harder, but I don't know what that entails. It might just be you don't get the rights, no matter money, unless you're talking billions. And I guess the new owners of EA have infinite money, so maybe, but is that worth it? Obviously not, right? At a certain point, it's just not. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it was tough when it comes to the Chel week thing. Guaranteed, first week of week 4, we're getting a Chel week. No, without a doubt in my mind, we're getting a Chel week. I may sound dumb here, but does anyone know if you are in Diamond, do you start the next season in Diamond? Since it's a rank floor, do I go back to Silver? if you get to gold, you start back at gold 1. That's it. Like if you're a gold, you start back at gold 1. I know there's a lot of people that argue and hate that. I don't mind it because you get all the packs, so there's a big pack dump. But if you started and let's say you were in Ultimate and you went to Elite, dude, you're done in a week. And a lot of people would be like, I don't want to, why do I want to climb the ladder again? It's like, don't you want to just play the game? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the answer to that would be. It's like when I see people that are like in Elite or Ultimate, right? Now it's like, now I got to climb all over again. It's like, don't you want to work for something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the benefit of that would be to not have it. If it wasn't there, God, you would get so bored so fast. So fast. The complaints on Reddit would be crazy. It has to start somewhere. It's better than going all the way back down to bronze because then you've got the majority of players just getting absolutely smoked. I'd prefer 1 day a week content on Friday where everything comes out. 1 or 2 days of chores over the weekend and then play the way we want Monday through Friday. Here is what I would love to try. If I got free reign of Hockey Ultimate Team and I got to design the schedule, here is what I would try. Number 1, first thing I would do, stop with the content at 5 p.m. You have 20% of your player base, maybe more, operates across the pond in Europe. You literally eliminate them from even being able to engage in the content when it comes out at 5 p.m. Eastern time because it's midnight. Knock that off. Go back to 1 p.m. Even 3 p.m. Eastern time, but I would go to 1 p.m. And another reason for EA, which is mind-boggling to me, all of your big releases happen at 1 p.m. Why? Because 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time is the biggest hour for engagement in social media. I get that. 5 p.m., it makes sense because you get everyone that's home from work. But man, your player, like, yeah, a lot of people, maybe they're done work at 4:30, they get home and they hop on Chel, for sure. But a lot of them, families or work later, like, you're eliminating the European player base. Like, you're allowing them to now take part in it. That would be number 1 for me. Number 1 for me. It's crazy that has not happened yet. All right? It is crazy to me. So, not to mention, if there wasn't any breaks, like where the packs are broken and everything, what was released as intended works as intended, then the people that can't take part in those set of packs when they first get dropped aren't missing out. But they're not missing out. Because one of the worst things is like, imagine you move to 1 and that you work till 4. One of the biggest arguments is like, I can't take part when the content drops, so all the broken packs I get to miss out on. The pack shouldn't be broken. That, like, first and foremost, like if you remove that, then nothing changes, right? There's no advantages. So that would be number 1. The next thing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday content structure. It is crazy to me that we go Friday to Tuesday and we don't get our first weekend acknowledgement until Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night. Needs to be Monday. Lastly, okay? Monday, Wednesday, Friday for content. I would keep it 3 days a week, but hang on. That's for cards. Tuesday and Thursday, you release 3-line combos on both days. Just try it. Just try that. It's automated. Just do that. And I bet you any money you would have... Oh, the other thing, fantasy cards updated every single day. Again, you can't have weekends because you don't want to pay people to work on the weekends. Understandable? Sure. Monday through Friday, if they're at work, they can go +1 on a card. It's 1 card. I don't know why that isn't a thing. It's like they've drawn like a hard line in the sand. You can't touch content. Like, you're in the office, man. you're in the office. Just go into the spreadsheet, change the card, go +1. And if they did all of that, I think that would be a far better way. There's other ways to do it. I don't know if that's the best way. A lot of people would say go back to 5-day-a-week content. If they do that, then I would expect only 8 cards a day. And maybe that's fine. Like, I don't know what the proper amount of cards is. I would say this. There needs to be 5 cards every day that is released that could go into a top-end team. And maybe that's too much. Or it would be in consideration. That would be where I would go. So that's going to do it for today's Coffee and Chel. A lot of good stuff there. We're back 5 days a week where it should be. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Again, congrats to Team USA. I am going to be upset, but then I get to watch Macklin, I believe, on Wednesday night. So everything's good again. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.